Okay, can you hear me in the last row? Perfect. Yeah, so my name is Philipp Reisner. I'm CEO of LINBIT. And what we do is DRBD. And before I go into the subject, I want to do the poll. Who of you knows DRBD? Okay, a few. And who of you has used DRBD in the past? Okay, and I want to turn that into you're going to use it with OpenNebula, right? So here we go. So what you probably know is that DRBD can be used to build HA systems. So that's the use case in the center. Where we're now putting our focus on is enabling DRBD to be used with cloud deployments. And OpenNebula is a very nice cloud system to be used with DRBD. And on the other hand, we also support disaster recovery setups with what means in our context that we support mirroring of block data over long distances. So maybe you have seen this picture before. So this illustrates the Linux kernel. That's the orange box. You have at least 2 nodes. And here I indicated the position where DRBD is in the I/O stack. So what we do is we mirror out the block writes to a second node. Usually you do that in synchronous mode. We also support async mode. And you see 2 nodes here on the screen, but that's no longer true. We support up to 31 peers, so 32 copies in total. But I hope nobody needs to copy his block data 32 times. So the 32 is just the upper limit. So what we see in the field is customers want to have 2 replicas, 3 replicas, maybe 4. When we have a case of 4, then usually there is 1 or 2 in offsite data centers. So we are already talking about the new features of DRBD9. So the other one is, for those who know DRBD, you always needed to promote it manually. This is no longer true. It has now an auto-promote mode. The other features on the list, it got this transport abstraction layer, so we are no longer fixed to TCP/IP. You can also use RDMA. SCDP is on the to-do list. And there is a management component that's DRBD Manage, and that is like the middleware that binds DRBD to your cloud system, to OpenNebula. Okay, so we have 4 new features. So if you remember something from my presentation, remember the number 4. Okay, so what's auto-promote for those of you who know DRBD? So in the past, you did DRBD ADM primary, and then you used it. And after using it, you demoted it to secondary mode. No longer necessary. You just use it, and it becomes primary. And usually, DRBD is operated in a one master, one or multiple slave ways. So if you want to access it on a second node, and while it's open here, the open will fail, the mount will fail. But there's an exception to that. You would use it or you would enable dual primary mode just for the sake of live migration of your virtual machines. So when you use it in the context of OpenNebula, you will not have a file system on top of the block devices. You have your VM image on the block devices. Okay, then let's talk quickly about the networking options. So DRBD9 is now 2 kernel modules, it's no longer 1. So you get the DRBD core and you get the DRBD transport TCP. And that enables you to do, Ethernet, all that. The big alternative to that is to use the DRBD transport RDMA. And at this point, I want to add DRBD core and DRBD transport TCP and DRBD manage. That's all open source. And we have tiny proprietary offerings around our open source offering. And that RDMA transport is one of the proprietary offerings. So you need to get in touch with us to use that. But the great news is you have super low latency, InfiniBand and Rocky hardware, and can leverage on top of that. Okay, so what was feature number 4? That's DRBD Manage. So in the past, for those of you who know DRBD, what you did to use DRBD, you created your volumes on the nodes, for example, using LVM, and then you wrote the config file, you rolled out that config file, and then you used DRBD ADM to activate that. That's a thing of the past, right? So on top of that, we have now this DRBD Manage component that forms like a cluster out of your nodes, and you can shoot in commands, command line, API, whatever, and it will create a new replicated volume, 2 times replicated. It will select the hosts where space. It will use LVM to create the backend volume, put the DRBD config there, activate it, and you can use it. And here on this slide, there you see the dbus API and the command line tool on top. But let me advance a little bit. So DRBD Manage takes a few nodes with a volume group you prepare, and it is a provisioning solution for DRBD. So that's the software architecture, but since the time is a little bit constrained here, let me go on. So this is an example how that could look like on, let's say, 4 nodes. You have this control volume that's on each of those nodes, and you have your user volumes, usually 2-way replicated. Maybe you decide for some volumes they should be 4-way replicated. Yeah, you can do a lot of things to that. Our control structure allows to scale the cluster beyond 32 nodes, but I don't have time to go a lot into those details. So when you're going to use it with OpenNebula, you have this add-on DRBD Manage. So that's the driver that connects OpenNebula to the DRBD system, and it shoots in the requests for new volumes, taking snapshots, removing volumes, all that into the DRBD Manage, let's call it middleware, and it does the trick. Okay, let's go on here quickly. I skip all that. Yeah, okay. So that's a little peek into our tech roadmap. So what we did recently, we got drivers for OpenStack. We worked with big companies like IBM. We got our driver for OpenNebula released. Our kernel stuff runs on Windows now as well. The source code is already released. Support for that will come later, early next year. And lots of interesting stuff going on here. Since Ubuntu stepped forward with bringing ZFS in a distribution to Linux, we support now ZFS as a backend for DRBD Manage. So that means not the file system itself, but the volume management aspect of ZFS, so the ZVols. And actually, the first customers we have in production, they all, for some reason, choose ZFS ZVols over LVM logic volumes. So DRBD Manage support for DRBD proxies, so to have long distance replication out of the managed system, that's still on the roadmap, but will appear very soon. And since I have only 1 minute left, let me tell you a little bit about our company. So we are a 30-people company. Most of us are located in Vienna, Austria. So this is where my German accent is from. A few of us, including Greg, are from the Portland office in Oregon. And we cover the rest of the world with a good partner network. I want to point out that we have a great partner in Japan. We do quite some business in Japan. And it's open source software. We do like the major part of our revenue is out of supporting open source users. So selling support subscriptions, that is our thing. The proprietary offerings are rather a small part of it. And here are some references of big name companies that work with our software. Okay, thank you very much, and maybe you can shoot 1 or 2 questions quickly.